We're in. So we're now in April and my attention turns to bream fishing. I've had some great success in the month of April. You know, they're putting on a bit of weight at that time of year, sort of ready to spawn in May, sometimes even June. So my attention turns to bream. Now, I'm currently fishing a big low stock pit, but I really wanted to, you know, give a lake a go that's got a reasonable number of bream in it. Try to catch some doubles for the camera, and the first place I thought of was Walthamstow Reservoirs. I've done bits on there before, I've fished it for years. It is the bream mecca. Every reservoir on site has big double figure bream up to sort of 17 pounds, and that's reservoir 1, 2, 3, and then you've got the higher Maynard and the lower Maynard.
Lovely fat, thick body fish from a big old resi.
Hey, well done, mate.
Mega chuffed with this one, really am. So, let's get her back. Cheers, mate.
Wicked.
It's known on the circuit for big bream, it's no secret. They're fantastic looking fish. You know, you've got a lot of different ones, different characters. You've got two-tone fish, you've got the dark, warty fish, you know, the older ones. And then you've got the pristine, sort of, you know, big old females that haven't got mark on them, probably younger fish. But, you know, you've got this generation of bream. And we plan to do a night session, a couple of days, and hopefully get into some of the big bream that swim in Walthamstow. Now, I've said this before, you know, with fishing, you normally think of rural areas, you know, when you think about fishing in general, but Walthamstow is in complete contrast. You're basically in London. You've got high-rise buildings around you, Canary Wharf in the distance, double-decker buses going past. It's a lively place, really urban, and there's just an oasis there within these reservoirs, and the fish thrive. Not only are there huge bream, there's huge carp as well, and all species. It's a real special set of waters, and just not in the sort of surroundings you would expect them. I think the bream, you know, and all the fish that swim in the Walthamstow Reservoirs get big just because of how rich the lakes are with natural food, bloodworm beds, very silty. And I think this is one of the main reasons that the fish get to such huge sizes. It's public, they do lock you in at night, which is great, but you know, you've got that atmosphere there. You've got people walking around and different characters that you meet on the bank, and people from all over the place come to fish for these special fish. So every time I go to Walthamstow, I love it. And you know, it's a venue that I really enjoy fishing, and couldn't wait to get started to try and catch some of these monster bream. I've concentrated most of my efforts on the higher and lower Maynard. You do have reservoirs 1, 2 and 3 on the other side of the road. They have a closed season, so you miss the actual time when the bream start to put on weight via spawn. I've had some great success actually on the higher, with fish up to 15 pounds, 15 ounces. So you know, really awesome fish, and you know, a proper bream, mint condition. But for this trip, I decided to concentrate on the lower Maynard. It's been producing some huge bream, and so that's where I headed. So I approached fishing on the lower in a different way to how I would fish a campaign for bream on a low stock pit. So, you know, when you've got low stock of bream, 15, 20 fish in one lake, you know, you're moving on to fish. If you see something roll that's really special, they've given away where they are. But on the lower, I decided, because there's a lot of bream in there, you know, there's huge shoals of big fish. I decided to pick an area sort of mid-water and halfway down the lake, so sort of central, put a big bed of bait out, and quite a big bed of bait, and wait for the fish to move on it. So, you know, it is a different type of fishing to what I do on other lakes, campaign-wise. But I was confident that with the number of big fish that are in there, that sooner or later they will find my bait. They're competing for it. So that's the main thing, you know, they're actively seeking out food, rather than the low stock ones, which, you know, they can be a bit more choosy and tricky. My baiting approach for this session, I've decided to go with a ground bait and maggot approach. I've stayed away from the particles. They work when it suits it. But on Stowe, maggot, you know, has produced a lot of good fish, and it has for me in the past. So the idea is I'm going to mix up a ground bait mix, which is going to attract the fish into the area, and then I'm going to have maggot out there. I don't want to put any hemp in it or other particles and get them preoccupied. So that's my theory. Whether it'll work or not is we're yet to find out, but I'm just going to walk you through my mix and what I'm using, and the key aspects of that I think are important, especially when fishing for big pit bream. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a Silver X ground bait. It's quite a dark ground bait, which is hugely important. And I'm just going to obviously just add that into the bowl there. I'm going to put the whole one of this in. So this is going to be my main ground bait in the mix, apart from the worm castings, which I'll get onto in a minute. And then I'm going to put a bit of big fish green lip mussel, which, as you probably know from my other films, I love this ground bait. I use it all the time. It's brilliant for tench as well. But I'm going to mix sort of quarter of this, so effectively it's one part to 4 in ratio, even though that's a smaller bag. The reason for that is the Silver X is a lot darker, and I want to keep it dark. Give that a good mix as you do dry. You're going to get all that nice and mixed in. So the next ingredient to go into this mix is probably the most important. I use it again for most species, especially bream and tench, and that's worm castings. They're dark, they're rich in nutrients, and they are it's one of the best attractants you can get. It's been used for donkey's years in the match scene, and I just don't think you could beat it. And you know, I have confidence in it, and you kind of stick to what you're confident with. So I'm going to put some of this in. I'm just going to add this. I mean, the ratio is difficult to tell depending on, you know, what you've put in prior, but I'm just going to add this until it's dark, until it's dark enough. So this is going to be sort of the main bulk of the mix. So add it in dry as you do. Give it a mix, and when it looks like soil, that's when it's right. Now obviously you don't want to put too much in because it's not going to bind like a ground bait would, so it's quite important that you do it a bit at a time, and just when you start to get that dark colour, that's usually about right. But honestly, it's trial and error. So next up we're going to start adding the water. Now I've got some water here separate, might need a little bit more. In this handy little pot here, instead of taking loads of bottles of liquids, I've got 3/4 molasses, which is extremely important when fishing for specimen fish because it keeps that ground bait dark. It's a great attractant, you know, it's sweet, it's a fantastic additive. I've also got some dynamite based liquid worm in here as well, and some hemp oil. Obviously that separates slightly, but it really does, you know, it's a real good attractant for the bream. So just mix that up in there like that. I'm just going to add it to the water that you're going to obviously add to the ground bait. And this is important. You don't want to add the liquids direct into the ground bait because it's not going to disperse as well, and you're going to get clumpy bits. This is going to be nice and level throughout the ground bait. So there you go. Just mix it with my hand. Put a little bit more in. Why not? When in Rome, as I say. All right. Or when in Stowe. All right. Now that's done. Looks horrible, but the bream love it. So let's add this to the ground bait. So I'll give it a smell actually. Yeah, it smells good too. So I mixed in the liquid now, and again you just add it a bit at a time, trying to get the ground bait nice and fluffy, so that when you ball it up it's going to break apart in your hands like this, and that's an indication that it will disperse on the bottom when the water starts to attack it. But the important thing is it will get down to the bottom. But I'm not actually going to be balling it out. I'm going to be just crunching it up into sort of balls, and then just putting it into the spomming it out. But that's going to get down on the deck nicely. There'll be a few loose bits around it, but ultimately I'm going to get it where I want. And I just want to put the bait in sort of snooker table size area. Spread it about a little bit, but this is to attract. So I don't want them preoccupied on this. I don't want the bream to, you know, if I put hemp in this, they could just get preoccupied with the hemp, and the maggot kind of become a second sort of choice for them. And I want to fish with the maggot. I want to draw them in. I want to have the maggot there, so that they're going to feed on the maggot. So it's like a tract, and then you've got the hook baits. I've also got some worms here, the dynamite worms, which I'm going to be using as well, and maggot. And I think the most important part of this is it's actually quite silty out there. You've got about an inch and a half of silt. I've tried to find hard spots, which I've struggled with, but it's pretty uniform. The bottom's pretty much the same, so dead maggot. And I've actually frozen these in a liquid, and that's just to keep them nice and moist. They sometimes dry out when you freeze maggots, but you know, these will sit on top of the silt. They won't bury like the live maggots, so you've got a visual aid there as well. And I do this a lot with most species, and it really does work. Preparation with any type of fishing is paramount, and you know, I was going to be fishing with 3 rods, standard helicopter rigs, bite alarm jobs, specimen style fishing, you know, not quiver tipping or anything like that, because it could take quite a while for the fish to find my bait. You know, I could even blank if I get it wrong. Tying a number of hook links, very important. If you do get a big hit of fish and other species, they can mess your rigs up. You don't want to be fumbling around in the middle of the night retying rigs. You want to just be able to take that one off, discard it, and put another one straight back on. You know, preparation, little things like make sure you've got your scissors and everything to hand and all organised, because the majority of fish will probably be nighttime bites. Got my marker on the far margin. Well, I say the far margin, I mean you can't miss them. There's big tall buildings over there. That's the one. Hit the clip, lovely. So it's my marker's that tree and that sort of middle tall building. So ideally for big bream and for a lot of species, you want to follow the wind. I mean, ideal conditions are low pressure, overcast, warm southerly on the end of it. Those are the conditions that you would like to choose. However, with Walthamstow you can only do a night every 3 weeks, I believe it is, and so I couldn't be picky with the conditions. So specimen angling in general, I always look for those pockets, and that's so important. Those windows are, you know, get out there and fish, but on this occasion that wasn't possible, so I had to make do with the conditions on that day. So I've got ground bait here. I'm going to get my ground bait, squeeze like that, you know, right, good squeeze. That will go in there. You'll have some loose around the side, but that'll spread it out. So it's got some live maggot in there as well, and then horrible, disgusting dead maggot. That's got some liquid worm in it. Like I said, that's going to sit on the silt and be the attractant. And then you've got spom that's got maggot in, ground bait, which gives it a bit of weight. So you've got the attractant and your hook baits that you're fishing with. So that's perfect for bream. Let's get it out. I wasn't too disheartened though, because although it was sunny, high pressure, not a lot of wind, it had been like that for quite a while, a couple of weeks. So consistent bad weather actually isn't that bad. The fish have to feed. It's when it suddenly turns bad, that's when you don't want to go. You know, when you get dropping temperature at night quickly after some sort of warmer weather. So it didn't put me off. You know, as I said, consistent weather's fine, you know, and I just cracked on with it and, you know, did what we had to do and see if I could nab a fish or two. So the plan was to get the marker float out at a reasonable distance, 10-11 wraps, see what's on the bottom, but really it's all the same. It's pretty uniform there, it's just a silty bottom, and then get the bait out. About 15 spoms I started off with. That's a medium-sized spom, and that's ground bait and maggot. So it's a lot of bait, but there's a lot of fish in there. And then what I do, and what I did, is just recast the rods with the feeders every 20 minutes or so at the start of the session. That slows down as I go along and I start to cast less regularly. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, because if you put too much bait out and then the fish don't get on it, you're really in trouble. So you need to gauge the actual session as it goes on. If you start catching fish, well then you can top it up again. If you're not catching fish, what's the point in putting bait back out? So that's really important. So every session's different. There's no point in putting a huge bed of bait out and just keep on topping it up if you're not catching. That's pretty central, isn't it? So this is the rig that I'm going to be using on Walthamstow on this session for the bream. It's a very simple rig. It's a helicopter feeder rig, which is used by specimen anglers for many species. I've just basically got 10-pound main line here, a couple of tapered gripper stops with a swivel in between. That's a 10 swivel, straight down to a 50-gram open-ended feeder. And on the business end, we've got 8-pound acolyte, which is the main hook link, fluorocarbon, to a size 12 hook, and a tail rubber here, which is just going to kick it away. The anti-tangle qualities of this rig is second to none. You can ping this out and you know it's fishing, which is really important, because you know you're not going to catch if you're not fishing and it's all tangled up on the bottom. There's a couple of things I like to do with this rig that not a lot of people do. People tend to have these spaced apart so that it can actually rotate as it would a helicopter rig. I actually like to push them really tight, and the reason for that is because these are tapered float stops, so that swivel always is allowed to swing around. Another thing I like to do is, with the fluorocarbon, it has a bit of memory in it, so you can actually turn the hook like this and it will stay like that in a kicked position. Now that, for hooking mechanics, is unbeatable. You know, as soon as it hits the water, it might kick out a bit that way, but it nails a fish in the bottom lip every time. And so that's the rig that I'm going to be using. It's really simple, nothing to it, used by a lot of anglers for a lot of different species, but it's really effective. And let's see how we get on. We're cooking. We're ready. Evening approached, and sitting there in anticipation, and got the bite that I'd been waiting for. We're in. I mean, it's always hit and miss at Walthamstow, you know. Sometimes it can be pretty tricky, believe it or not, with the amount of bream that are in there. And there's always that in the back of your mind, oh, have I got it wrong? But no, you know, that bite that you get, nothing exciting, just up and down, and bang, into a fish. Could tell instantly it was a bream, not known for their fighting skills, just, you know, reeled the fish in, but, you know, they do head shake a lot. And that's why it's important to have that soft tip on the rod to absorb those head shakes. You don't want that hook coming out. I'm using a size 12, so, you know, there's small hooks, and any head shake that's not being absorbed by the rod, it can come off. But anyways, got the fish in, up it come, straight in the net. We was off the mark. It's not what we're after, but what a great sign, you know, especially, you know, the first one, and they've moved on the spot, so good things to come, hopefully. So we had a fish in the net, and obviously bream a shoal fish, so where there's one, there's many. First one, not the biggest by any means, but a cracking bream, by any standard, lovely colours, and hopefully the first of more to come. So let's see. It's a bit of an old one, this, bit battered. There's a lot bigger in here, so we'll give it a go. Let's see what the night brings. Everything's looking good for the night. So I'm sitting there thinking, I'm in here, this is going to be a great one. Rod goes off again, pick it up. Oh, it feels like an eel. The head shakes on it. And then I got on the rod. And instantly, I've caught a lot of big eels, and I knew it was an eel. And I wasn't frustrated at that point, because it felt like a good eel, and I like my eel fishing. And I thought there was a chance of getting one, especially with maggots, because they love a maggot, and I'm fishing dead maggot over the top, so I kind of was asking for it, really. See the head bangs. Got it in, it was a lovely eel, probably about £3, and dealt with it and got it back. But what followed was, oh, it was enough to make you quit fishing. I mean, it was bite after bite after bite, eel after eel after eel. I mean, and they were bootlaces as well. They weren't even proper ones. The first one was the best one I had. These were tiny things. I'm sitting there in the middle of the night with forceps. I've got eels wrapping around my arm. You know, I'm trying to unhook them. Oh, it was a nightmare. All the rigs are tangled up. I've had to put, I went through all my pre-tied rigs. So all that preparation was basically gone within about 3 hours. There were that many. It was a nightmare. But you know what? I kept at it. I persevered, and eventually it came good. I I eventually got the bite I was waiting for and bent the rod into an actual bream, and it felt like a good one as well. I kind of didn't know what I was in for at that point. I thought I can get a couple during the night, that would be great. But the bream moved in, and a lot of them, and from then on it was carnage. All different characters, you know, ones with the dumpy ones, the two-tone ones, of a real good size as well. There were so many that landed and we didn't weigh all of them.
That's what we've been after. Absolute immaculate Walthamstow Bream. Oh, it's certainly my back holding it, but what a fish.
There were 3 over 13 pound out of that lot, 2 upper 13s, just under 14, which are huge fish. And you know, it's early in the season, so they haven't got that belly yet that they're going to get when they put spawn on. So these fish are easy 15 pounds come sort of late May before they spawn. But it was carnage. I mean, I had 1 in the net, and I was playing one, and then there was 2 in the net, and I had to put 1 in the sling, and then my rod was still going. It got to the point where, you know, I had to sort the fish out before casting out, you know, because of fish welfare safety. You don't want to compromise a fish, leave fish on the mat unattended. You know, it got to the point where it was just, I was like juggling rods.
We're in. They're on that bait, that's for sure.
I wasn't complaining though, because it was turning in to be the session of a lifetime, and I wanted to make the most of it. So, you know, with Jack there, it was great because obviously I had an extra hand to deal with all of this, because if I was on my own, I mean, it would have been chaos. But there was slime everywhere. I stunk. You know when you've had a good bream session, because you just end up covered in slime. You stink, and that's when you know you've had a good one. So I wasn't complaining again. It's all part of the fishing. It's all part of fishing for bream, and yeah, it just turned into an absolute belter.
What a lovely fish. Probably the biggest of the lot. We weighed this one, it's nearly 14. So an upper 13 pounder. So probably about 3 that were 13. Like I said, I didn't weigh those ones. I weighed this one because I think it was the biggest. A little bit lighter in colour, beautiful fish, female. Still got a bit weight to put on by spawn, but yeah, I'm well happy. Brilliant session. Look at that. That's a monster slab. Caught on the maggot. The Bream and tench rod's doing the business. Lovely. Let's get him up and release him.
Eventually the bite slowed down. I was kind of grateful for it because I was shattered. I was in a bit of a state. You know when you've had a good one and you turn round and your bivvy looks like a bomb's hit it. You know, bits were everywhere. It was one of those sort of chaotic sessions, and I was kind of grateful that it actually, you know, slowed down and I managed to get some sleep. So after a few hours sleep, absolutely shattered after that night of catching loads of eels and bream, it went a bit quiet. I got a few hours. I woke up early morning, first light, and I managed to see a few bream roll in the spot at the range I was fishing, obviously on my bait. So I decided to get about 8 to 10 more spoms out there, medium-sized spoms, bait up the area again. Redid the rods, you know, the fresh maggot, ground bait, got it back out there, hitting the clip nicely. I'm lined up with one of the buildings on the other side of the bank, perfect for, you know, knowing where you've got to cast to hit the clip. And also, just a quick tip, when you're fishing places like that, do not use cranes as your point of reference on the far margin, because they move. A lot of people have done that and then their spot's completely gone. They're like, hang on, where was I casting? So yeah, using the building on the far bank, I got some more bait out. It didn't take long, the rod was away, the middle rod, and I caught a fantastic looking bream. Now, it wasn't the biggest one that I had in the session. It was still a big fish, but it just had character. It was an old fish. It was beautiful colours, a real nice dark bronze fish, but it was its tail that I liked most of it. It looked like, you know those like wind-up toys you get? It had a really short, tiny, stubby tail. Probably finds it hard to swim around Stowe with that thing, but yeah, it's just like one of those ones you wind up and then you let go, like in the bathtub, like one of those ducks or whatever. But Yeah, it was a fantastic, fantastic looking fish, bit of character, and again, that's what I love about that lake. There's so many different fish in there. You never catch one the same.
A lovely, pristine looking male. Around 12 pound, I'd say, but doesn't really matter weight wise. It's just a beautiful bream, beautiful example of a bream.
So after that fish, I was expecting it to go a bit quiet. I thought I might be able to pick one or two off, but yeah, it was getting a bit later on in the day. It had been light for a couple of hours. There wasn't any signs of fish rolling anymore, and I just thought, well, maybe nab one or two, but it just went crazy. My left-hand rod went off, caught a fantastic fish, and all these fish, I mean, you know, there were so many, you couldn't weigh them all. Weighed a few, you know, sort of the bigger ones, the upper 13s.
What are they made up with this? That's a number of 13s I've had on this session. Incredible.
They were all in the region of sort of 11 to just under 14 pounds, most of them 12 pound plus. But from that point on, it was the best fishing I've ever had. The rods were going off constantly. I mean, I even cast out one rod, and as I was putting the bobbin on, it just tightened. I mean, it had taken it. It must have hit the bottom. The bream must have gone, oh, thank you very much, and taken it as soon as it touched bottom.
What a cracker. On the maggot. What a session. Got up a good fight as well, this one.
I had 3 in the net at one point, and then my rod went off again. So I had to reel in all my rods, you know, I had to think of fish safety, reel in all my rods, get all those fish sorted out, you know, photos and everything like that, because I just couldn't cope with any more fish. You know, there's no point in being on the mat up there with a big bream trying to get self-take and your rod going off. That's not good fishing, and I do not endorse that. So I reeled in the rods and got all the fish that I caught sorted.
What a fish. I've had to reel my rods in because they've been going off so often, so. But chuffed with these and a number of big bream.
But once I got back out fishing, it just continued. It was a bream fest, one after the other. I even had one, because I'm fishing on a very tight spot. All my rods were about 2 metres apart, maybe 3 when you have a bit of an off cast, but they were pretty close. And you know, I was playing one fish and it took the line of the other one, which isn't a problem. Netted it, was reeling in the other rod to reset it because it had obviously dragged it, and there was a fish on it. I mean, it was, you couldn't write it, it was unbelievable fishing. I ended up with so many bream. I mean, it was over 30 double-figure fish, 8 of which were over 13, a number of high 13s as well, huge fish. And you know, at the right time of year, those fish are 15 all day long. We had dark ones, I had two-tone ones, short ones, fat ones, you name it, you know, we caught them. And yeah, it was definitely a red letter day, a session that doesn't come along often, and just goes to show how good Walthamstow is in regards to bream fishing.
Drennan consultants are regularly involved in product development and testing of prototypes. In this film, Dan Woolcott was fishing the new Specimen tension bream rods, which will be available in tackle shops from June 2025.